The whole business came, like I said before, out of just sheer desperation. We
Yeah.
needed we needed money, and we weren't willing to trade our time for it. We wanted to invest our time to build this asset. So
Startup Guys podcast. Learn from aspiring entrepreneurs and their journey over time. It shows entrepreneurs are not born, we are self made.
Welcome to the Startup Guys podcast, a weekly show for aspiring entrepreneurs and freelancers. Today, I welcome a special guest. He is known for building an Amazon FBA business. First month, he did 10K in revenue. Now he's at 10K profit per month. He built a YouTube channel about building an FBA business and traveling. He's 25 years young, and he currently is in Chiang Mai and came back from Bali. He described to me his life he failed his way to success. And what I like about him, he's not disillusional about all the things he did to get where he is right now. So I admire him for his honesty and transparency already, because I know he's going to be sharing a lot of interesting stuff when it comes to maybe even drugs as an escape to not doing the things he should be doing, maybe some girly stuff. And of course, we're going to talk a lot about business, his drive and ambitions, why he's doing what he is doing. And hi, Nick. Thanks for being on the show.
hey, Danny, thanks for having me.
As I said, today I'd like to hear your story, how you became an entrepreneur, what you did to get there. But before we do this, let me ask you this. Are entrepreneurs born or self-made?
I think that about maybe 20%, probably less, there is a predisposition toward entrepreneurship like qualities. For example, seeing many ideas, or being a man or woman of action. You think of something and then you put it to the test. You're not afraid to fail. So there are certain qualities, I would say, that predispose you to be an entrepreneur, kind of like the talent. But in my opinion, talent is nothing. I think 80 to 90% of it is made. It's all about how you change your mindset. You could be the most non-entrepreneurial person and you can still succeed in business.
Where are you from? So I hear a little accent in your voice. Like clearly it's native English, but where are you from? Give us a little context. Where are you coming from? Who are you?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Gomel, Belarus. Not a lot of people know where Belarus is. It's around Ukraine and Russia area. If anybody knows Gary Vaynerchuk, he's actually from Belarus himself, except he came to United States, I believe, when he was 3 or so. I immigrated when I was 11, and my parents and I, we came to Toronto, Canada. That's where I grew up. Came with no English whatsoever, and lived. If anybody's from Toronto, North York area, the Russian Jewish area, grew up there in a single bedroom apartment. Eventually, I think speaking of genes, I think that I got some of it from my dad, because my dad was an entrepreneur in Belarus, but kind of foreseeing the situation where it was going. And it wasn't going to a good place right now. The economy there sucks. He took us out and he brought us to Canada, which I'm forever thankful to him. And then, we moved to downtown Toronto, and that's where I've lived my whole life.
Would you say this was the one of the biggest decisions he could have made for the happiness and well-being of your family?
1,000%.
Wow.
I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for that one decision to move to Canada.
Why did he leave, and what did you learn from his like courage to leave his home country to search for a better life?
So honestly, it wasn't until recently that I started reflecting on what you're saying. The courage of just leaving it all behind, because just a couple of years ago I was still early 20s kid, right? Like, what do I know? But as we kind of grew more distant, as I came out to Chiang Mai and like started working on my own, and kind of as an adult reflecting back on his choices and him bringing us out there. I can't imagine going through that, just leaving it all behind. I mean, for me, it was a little bit easier because my whole life I spent moving around. Like, back in Belarus, I remember ever since I was born, we had like 3 different apartments and houses, or 4 houses. And then when I moved to Canada, I moved like every couple of years, I moved schools or places where I lived, So for me, being in transit has always been the thing. Whereas for him, it's constantly been just growing up in one place, and that's all he knew until
Yeah.
he foresaw that this is not really going that well. So let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Do you think by moving all those places, you got like a drive to, like a bigger drive than other people to make stuff happen?
I don't know, to be honest with you, Danny, but I think the one thing that I did acquire was this, and it could be seen as good and as bad, but this lack of attachment. So not only to people, but just to things. The whole notion of nihilism. It's here until it's not, and it's all like there is no point. It's all kind of gonna go away. So at least less extreme version of that, where I had friends. I made new friends quickly. I built a new social circle, and I got a new job. I've been working since I was 13, by the way. And then and once we move or once we leave, and those close connections slowly dissipate. So I got a taste of what it's like to lose your close friends over and over and over again. So it wasn't a really sad thing as much as it was just, well, this is the way of life, and I accept that. That's just how things happen.
How do you incorporate this into your life right now, like this lack of attachment, and especially when it comes to businesses, maybe, and friendships?
Well, I think with friendships, it actually had the opposite effect. So because I moved to Canada and away from my whole family and everyone that I've known when I was 11, I've basically had no siblings, no family whatsoever. So my really close friends, 4 or 5 of them, they basically became like my brother. They are my siblings. So
Wow.
it actually made the bond stronger for me, where no amount of money or power or any kind of women I'll ever allow that to come in between me and my those really close friends. But then on the other end, for example, on the relationship side of things, I'm what you might call a non-dating kind of person. So I don't really get attached to romantic relationships, because I see it as, the last relationship I had was about 3-4 years ago when I was 21, going into 22. And we dated, me and this girl, we dated for about a year and 3 months or so. And I just found myself being very complacent, very, kind of settling down and very comfortable where I was. But then at the same time, I didn't feel like myself, because, anyone out there who's in long-term relationship, I'm sure this conversation happened, like, oh, I don't think that looks great on you. Maybe you should try this shirt. And it's like these little kind of jabs where it's like, maybe not meant intentionally to harm, but more as in, kind of trying to incorporate your personality into theirs and your tastes into theirs. And I just didn't like that. I didn't want to be intrinsically or extrinsically controlled or anything like that.
It almost feels like the other person wants you to change, right?
Exactly.
And this is true. This is true for business partners too. In my first startup, we became so equal almost that we didn't know how to embrace each other's strength and each other's personalities, to let each one of us to be who we are, and even empower ourselves with the strengths and weaknesses we have. And this is true for relationships too. When it comes to, you said working since I'm 13, and you said, by the way, I'm working since I'm 30. It means, for me, it means you are proud of it. It means that there wasn't something that you got gifted. You didn't have rich parents. You needed to work for your success, and you needed to work where you are right now. What does it mean for you working since 13, and what did you learn there?
So this is, I think, a very unique experience that I got, that I haven't really found anyone else who had it. And if someone who's listening had this, I think this is one of the biggest strengths you could have possibly ever gotten in your life. And that is, before we moved to Toronto, think of it this way: to be in Belarus, to be in this almost, like, I wouldn't say third world country, but let's say second world country, right? Still coming up, still like heavily communist SSSR influenced nation. You need to have money to move to a place like Toronto, right? Toronto, Canada. So Before 11, right before we moved, I remember this very clearly. We had a 3-story house. Third story was like a sauna and a gym. We had 2 awesome cars, like a Mercedes and something else. And then everything just flipped. So we moved to Toronto, single bedroom apartment, a used car. And like, I remember this was when my real education began, when, I saved up some money that, I got from grandparents and my parents for my birthdays and whatever, and New Year's, and that equated to about 20 or 30 Canadian dollars, right? So I was like, oh, this isn't a lot. This sucks. And I remember, I was a fan of McDonald's because in my city we did not have a McDonald's. So whenever my dad would go to the capital, which is about a 2-hour drive away, it's called Minsk, I would ask him, bring me a McDonald's meal back. So there was a McDonald's right near the place where we moved in Toronto. And, I would tell my dad, like, wow, I want to go get like, a Big Mac meal. And, he would really come down heavy on me, like, hey, you sure you want to spend your money like that? That's a dumb way to spend your money. He wasn't apologetic. He wasn't what you'd call an ideal parent. He's just like, you're an idiot for doing that. So here I was, an 11-year-old kid, just kind of like dazed and confused, trying to kind of get a grip on it. But so going from this like very, I guess, affluent state of being where everything's kind of done for me and I don't have to worry about anything to, coming down to almost poverty level. And I'll tell you this, it all came as an accident. I'm not gonna front with you and say that, oh yeah, I was ambitious, I was always a hustler. It wasn't like that at all. It was just, I was curious to work. Like I was interested. I'm like, man, this sounds cool. Let's do that. Like making money is just something interesting and awesome, right? Especially at the age of 12, 13, when you don't really have access to make money. And then my dad was just going through a newspaper and he said, hey, look, there is an advertising. You can sell chocolates in plazas and they'll pay for it. I'm like, great, done. So I called the number, they picked me up. I had to learn this, learn this preset, whatever script. And then I just stand there in the middle of winter, Toronto winter is like minus 25, minus 30, little kid bundled up trying to sell chocolates. And I'll tell you this, it wasn't that bad, man. I was working Friday, Saturday, about 8 hours each day. And I've gotten up to a level where every weekend, so every Friday, Saturday, I was making about $200, which for a 13, 14-year-old, that's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, man.
That's true. That's true, man. So fast forward to your journey. I remember when we chatted before jumping on this podcast, and even when we met in Chiang Mai, there was a pivotal moment in your life. You sitting at home, Christmas in your dorm room. I guess it was in Canada. Can you lead us to this moment? So you as a 13-year-old kid selling chocolate, what happened in between to this moment? What have you tried? What didn't work? What worked? And then you ending up in this dorm room alone at Christmas.
Startup Guys Podcast, a show for aspiring entrepreneurs and freelancers. Learn more on startupguys.com/masterclass.
Right now, it's November 18th. We're coming up on my 2-year anniversary, which will be December 25th, Christmas. And exactly 2 years ago, December 25th, 2014, I was part of a fraternity in Toronto, and I was sitting in a frat dorm room. Basically, just imagine just a tiny, maybe like a 5 feet by maybe 7 feet dorm room, maybe a little bit bigger. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting my feet wrong, but it was a small room. Just a bed, a table, and I just had a bottle of wine. Had my computer open, and at that point, I had no prospects for business. The only thing I've done before was done a little franchise, which I made some money, but as anyone who's done a franchise knows, they take usually anywhere between 30 to 40% of whatever it is that you make. So you don't make a lot of money on franchises. And I was sitting there really depressed. I mean, it was my last year in university, by the way. I stuck in university for about 7 years because I kept switching majors and I couldn't figure it out. And university was never really my strength, sitting down and paying attention in lectures and whatnot. So I kind of drifted by the whole university career. And I was sitting there with my laptop open, just really depressed because all my friends were out celebrating with their families. My family doesn't really celebrate Christmas, and I didn't really feel like being home that day specifically because I didn't really have anything to celebrate. And that
Yeah.
was probably one of the lowest points in my life, where I'm thinking like, man, how did I get here? What happened here? Right? How do I get out of here? And back then I remember it was so impossible. It seemed like so far. If you told me that 2 years from now, you're going to have an awesome, Amazon business, you're going to be traveling the world, you're going to be making 10K American, a month, I would be, okay, well, show me. I don't believe you. Show me. How is that possible? There's no way. I've never made that much money in my life. Like, screw
Yeah.
you. Um, between me being 13, getting my first job, and that point, a lot happened. Other than that, than 2 years of doing that franchise home care business that I signed up for in my university career, there was just, man, like years of entrepreneurship where, 1 month I would get my friends together and we'd be like, okay, guys, let's mastermind together. Let's get a board. Let's draw up some business ideas. What can we do? And then that kind of evolved into, okay, maybe we should ask people what they want. So we'd go to university students and ask them what they wanted. And then, it was a lot of hypotheticals and a
Hmm.
lot of data gathering, but no execution. And that's what I started after a year or two of that. I was like, man, execution's everything. You just gotta act. And
So you got tired of talking, right? Just
oh
like
yeah,
brainstorming with your idea, like with your friends about ideas. And I did the same thing. I think the stage of entrepreneurship, it's important, but as you said, eventually you need to move, and execution is everything.
yeah. And what's funny is that this is the one thing that I learned is that the good businesses, the ones that succeed, the ones that work, especially if you've never done anything business like before, they're very unsexy. So, after that Christmas, about a month and a half later, it was February, and me and my best friend Ryan, we were sitting in a sushi restaurant in Toronto. If anyone listening from Toronto, New Generation Sushi on Bloor Street, you won't regret it. And we were sitting there over lunch special. And Ryan brought up an idea to me. He's like, "Hey, man, so we did this home care franchise where they taught us everything, and it was primarily focused on window cleaning and eavesdrop cleaning, right?"
Hmm.
So he's like, they've taught us everything. So, and our non-compete is up because they had a non-compete for about a year and a half or so. And he said to me, non-compete's up. Why don't we try running our own? Because he said, I can think of way better ways that we can automate the business and hire a VA to do the emails and calls and whatnot,
Yeah.
rather than doing it all by hand. We're really good at door-to-door marketing, which is what we learned. Just say the script, how to book a person properly, how to get less no's and more yeses, how to hire and train a team. Like, we've done it all, right? But back then, to me, just, man, this doesn't seem like a business. It just seems like, you just go out there, wash some windows. Like, it wasn't sexy. And back then, my mind was only on that, man, I want to make an app, I want to be, it's all like million, million, million. And yet here I'm sitting with 30 grand of debt, proverbially with, excuse my French, dick in my hand, like not doing anything about it. So, we boil it down. We're like, you know what? I just want to do anything and anything at this point. Anything
Yeah.
that works, anything that gets me to come up to my dad and to tell him, hey, I got my OSAP paid. Because I think on one side, my parents were prepared to pay, but I didn't see how they were going to pay it. And I didn't want them to pay my OSAP. Like, this is my debt. I incurred it and I should pay it. So
Wait,
I
may I interrupt?
sure.
Sorry. Your dad, like the role he played in your university career, were your parents proud that them moving to a foreign country, their son is like studying? Or was your dad rather expecting you to be like this kind of what we call street smart guy who isn't studying but always hustling, doing businesses, and then you took the opposite approach on academic career?
Actually, no. I think it was neither of those. So in grade 12, when like right around the time of my graduation, I told my dad, "Hey, Dad, I want to take a little break. I maybe just a year just to figure it out. I'm not quite sure which direction I want to go right now, and I don't want to sign up for university because, I made a logical appeal
Yeah.
to be sensible. And my father looked at me, he said, you have two choices. You either go to University of Toronto, and that's the only things he said, U of T, or you're going to the Belarus army. Like, I'm sending you to the army. So I guess now reflecting back on that, I understand where he comes from, because for him, education was not like, he was a good student. Don't get me wrong, in like what's equivalent of high school in Belarus, but he had to drop out first year of college because he's the oldest of four brothers. And his parents back then were really struggling. They were working two jobs and they could barely make ends meet. So he worked as brick and tile layer in somewhere in the Middle East, and they paid really well. And at some point he was he was able to make more money in a month than both of his parents in a year, which is, I guess, kind of, I see that trajectory between me and him, because that's where I am. Like, not to be like, oh, in your face, right? But more of like, this is gonna be like, I'm following my father's footsteps, and that
That's
gives,
nice.
that resonates with me deeply, despite all the conflict we've ever had. As a kid, I didn't understand a lot of where he's coming from, how he sees things. But as I'm getting older, and he's right. He's always been. He's like, just wait till you get older, you'll see where I'm coming from. And he's absolutely right. Now I see where where he was coming from the whole time. But so he gave me this ultimatum, and I was like, what the fuck? And I wasn't really, I didn't really have the marks to go into, go into university. So U of T, it has three campuses. It has the central campus downtown Toronto, and it has two periphery campuses in Mississauga and Scarborough, which are the cities to east and west of Toronto along the lake. So I decided I had the grades to get into one of those two, but I didn't have the grades to go to the downtown one. So I'm like, well, he said U of T, so technicality, I'll go to U of T Scarborough. Mind you, it was an hour and a half away by subway, one way, and then an hour and a half back. I was taking all sorts of things there. I went from like psychology to history. I originally, he wanted me to be in accounting, so I tried accounting for a semester. I didn't like it. And then eventually, like second semester, something just snapped in me, and I was like, "Screw this! I'm going to Ryerson." And Ryerson is a downtown school just south of the University of Toronto, which was like not even 20 minutes by subway away from my house. So I transferred to Ryerson. Long story short, my dad. I didn't tell my dad. My dad found out the next semester once I started going there, and I got a letter from Ryerson. He's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's my new school." We didn't speak for 2 years or 2 months.
Yeah.
2 months, he didn't talk to me. He's like, okay, you know what? And I think at that point, he kind of started giving up on me, where he's like, well, you're a grown man, make your own decisions. And, we still had like some back and forths, some certain topics, over the next couple of years. But I think it was right around when I was 23. So just 2 years ago, we were driving together, and he said, you know what? At this point, you're a grown man. You can do, your life, your choice. I tried my best. And him saying that, it really hurt me, because I was under the assumption that he kind of saw me as a loser at this point, because I was 23.
Yeah.
I was maybe working sometimes some part-time jobs just to kind of get enough capital to, start something. Sometimes I wouldn't work at all. Sometimes I would just, do OSAP, and then like I did the franchise, right? And then there was like that year and a half hiatus where I worked at bars for a bit. So it wasn't until, we started that window cleaning company where I didn't get his approval and kind of pride in me, but I started feeling like I was doing something. And, this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we were sitting in this bar, or in the sushi restaurant. And I was like, man, this is definitely not the kind of business that I want to be doing, but it's something. And then at the end of that summer, so maybe 6 months later, when it's July, August, we went on a Southeast Asia trip, and we were just reminiscing about like, man, we went from nothing. Within 6 months, we went to nothing. From like, we built a $60,000 revenue business, which means that I took away from it about $10,000 to $15,000, which was great. Like for 6 months of work, and that was an engine that I could reuse back in the fall Like that's an asset, right? We built an asset together.
Sure.
Reuse it in the fall, reuse it next year. These are customers that we can always pick up the phone and call or send an email like, hey, we'll come by for your yearly or biannual, biannual cleaning. So that's when I started realizing, like, okay, what do you value more, Nick? Do you value the name on the building, the sexy approach, like the hustle, pay off later? Or do you want to do the smart way, where you do something that's actually needed right now? Doesn't have to be anything, fantastic or mind-blowing, just provide a service that people need or a product that people need. And it doesn't have to be extraordinary, and just make money so that when the opportunity presents itself to do that sexy thing, you have the resources to do it. That was the change. And then I used my majority of my earnings from the first summer, the fall, and then the next summer, which was summer 2016, where I ended up selling the business. I used all of that cash to fund my Amazon business. And my first sale is actually, I'm fairly new at this. Don't think that I'm some like 10 years in the business guru guy. May 2nd.
You're not?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to lead you to believe that I am something
Why
special.
did I invite you for the podcast?
God damn it, I don't know. I was happy up until I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have said anything. But it was May 2nd that I made my first sale, 2016, which is about, what is it? May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So 7 months ago. And before that, I did a lot of preliminary research, which is why later on I started a YouTube channel, because I think that I've had some intricacies in my research that other people were talking about. And, launched my first product. I'll tell you this, it's not a sexy product, but it's something that people need. And it grew now. So now I'm expanding the variety of the product. I'm expanding the brand of it, registering the trademark. So I'm building, once again, it's all about systematically building an asset that you can either leverage to get money or sell later on.
I like this, and I like it so much that I want to break it down.
Okay.
Because I feel you went over a few important lessons that I haven't even grasped. So that's why I want to break it down. So you started this business with your friend, right? And then you said you sold it?
Yes.
Yeah. How was selling it? Was this the goal from the beginning, or was it just an opportunity that it presented itself during this time? And another question would be, the money you made with this business and then selling it, you paid off your uni debt, right? What about selling it? Can you share anything around it? Like,
yes.
Why did you sell it? Why did you move on?
The Startup Geist podcast. Learn from aspiring entrepreneurs and their journeys over time. Go to startupgeist.com/masterclass.
Right. So the whole business came, like I said before, out of just sheer desperation. We needed money, and we weren't willing to, trade our time for it. We wanted to invest our time to build this asset. So, to give you a very simplified version of the business, in February, we decided we're going to do this. Around March, when it started to get a little bit warmer, we started going door to door. Just grab we had nothing. So there was no, I'm not hiding anything. There was no, some back end secret. No, literally picked up a pad, paper, pen, went door to door. We kind of already knew what we were talking about, what we were asking people. So, we'd knock on doors and just like, hey, my name's Nick. We're running a window cleaning company this summer, student-based window cleaning company. We're environmentally friendly, and, we would love to give you a free estimate if you've been considering having your windows cleaned this summer. A lot of times, 1 out of 10, they'd be like, yeah, we have been considering, okay, give us a free estimate. And then we'd book a tentative date with them, and we'd write it down. And we would start booking for end of April. So we're in March now, but we're pre-booking it ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we did that for March, April, and is it March, April, May? Yeah.
How many pre-bookings did you make roughly?
So when we hired the team in like early mid-April, and we trained them, and we went to our first job, I believe it was like April 16th, 2015. At that point, we were already booking for June. So we had April, May booked. for one full team, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and we were like early June booking, so like a month away. And the first month, like there was a few other partners actually in the business. It was four of us originally, but the other two guys dropped out to the point where it was just me, Ryan, and like one more employee. And so we had to scramble where Ryan, by morning time, Ryan would be setting up, virtual assistant and, processes like email processes by which we would manage the customers, systematically rather than by hand. And then I would go get our one employee, and then I found the second one. I hired him on, and the three of us would clean windows all day until about 4 or 5 p.m. Then I'd come home. I would take a shower, relax for maybe 40 minutes, grab a bite, and then I'd change. Ryan would pick me up, and then we go door to door, 6 till about 8:30 until it gets dark. And that was about 3 weeks. We did that. And that was exhausting, to say the least.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, but to answer your question earlier, like I think we weren't disillusioned about, oh man, we're going to make $1 million doing this window cleaning thing, because there's a lot of moving pieces. It's really hard to automate something like this, where, you have employees coming and going, you have customers dropping out, sometimes, not a lot of times, but sometimes, you're dealing with so much human resources that there's too many unpredictable variables there. And I wanted something more automated. I didn't want to constantly, sit over my laptop like, okay, somebody's going to call, or, even having, like, there was just too much going on that could go wrong. Yeah. So we're like, for now, we're willing to deal with it because it brings us money. But at some point, this will get automated. So when we went on a Southeast Asia trip at the end of 2015, end of summer 2015, Ryan actually ended up staying here in Chiang Mai. He went to Philippines afterwards, but now we live together. We're both doing our thing. I came back to Toronto. I ran the business for the fall, and that's when like end of 2015, beginning of 2016 was when I started like doing the research and the orders and everything like that on Amazon. Because Amazon, when we were doing the traveling in Southeast Asia, I found out that there was a lot of people here that were just selling stuff on Amazon.com. And, they said, this is not that hard of a system. I had the breakdown a few times. And somebody pointed me to Scott Volker's Amazing Seller podcast. And that's where I learned pretty much 99% of what it takes to do this thing. So I think the hardest part was just the research, finding a supplier, and just pulling the trigger and just putting the money in. Once it arrived, there was just set up the listing, set up the pay-per-click, and it kind of started slowly picking up itself until eventually I reached like 30, 35 sales now per day I'm doing. So the business sale itself, I think we weren't offered it because it was actually two of the guys that were working for me. I was telling them like, yeah, I'm thinking of selling the business. I'm looking for buyers, and I'm leaving to Chiang Mai, and I want to travel and do this thing. And they actually came up to me and they're like, hey, we would like to express our interest in selling it. Mind you, usually businesses are valued at about, I think it's like 3 to 5 times the monthly or yearly profit or whatever it is. I'm not really quite sure on the valuation, but let's just say they got a really good deal on it. It was
because you wanted to get rid of it to move on.
Partially because, I've known these guys for a while, and it wasn't like I only needed a minimum amount of money from the sale of it. Like I wasn't looking to profit from the sale. I was just looking to cover my debts before I left. Yeah. So it wasn't big. I think the biggest asset in a business like that is the customer list. It's not really, because other than the customer list, it's just some equipment, maybe a van to work, maybe some processes that were set up before, but nothing that can't be figured out. The customers, though, that's what takes time to cultivate and to come back and to build trust with. So that's the biggest asset that was under sale. And yeah,
you know what I like about your story, and I want to pinpoint it, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Going from door to door takes a lot of guts, right? And that's the first lesson I learned here. Is like a lot of people are not willing to do this, And I think this is something you learned when you were 13 selling chocolate. You were in a mall or wherever you were outside. You weren't afraid of selling, and this is like a constant theme throughout the journey. I'm realizing now it's you build up your sales skills year after year, right? And then uni, as you said, like you're changing major. This was not really your path. And maybe looking back in your life, it might even be 7 lost years. But then again, you learned about accounting and other stuff that might be interesting or might be valuable later. And what I learned as well is like before starting the business, you had pre-bookings in place, and in startup land and software land. And as you said, like you were dreaming about having a software company as opposed to a business which is like unsexy, right? But that's where you do business. And you pre-booked all those orders before starting the company, before building a business. And I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs get this wrong, like not testing, not validating your offer. And another thing I learned just you talking is you were willing to put in the hard work, like cleaning the windows. You didn't hire people right from the start. You were part of the cleaning. So you knew what it takes to approach customers, to deliver the service, to put all the processes in place. And then you were even willing to go door to door at night to get more customers. And that's really impressive. And I think a lot of people don't see this hustling mentality of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And you just set the bar there right quite high. It doesn't mean you need to do this, but this is a theme I'm exploring right now and discovering with all my guests is a lot of hard work over a lot of years.
Right. Yeah, I think you've connected the dots there pretty well. It's something that I haven't really thought about either. But and just another little caveat is after the chocolates, the next job when I think I was 14 or 14 and a half, like the very next thing that I did was selling newspaper subscriptions door to door, where I had to get people's credit. Like, imagine a 15-year-old shows up to your door and he's like, "Hey, I'm selling these newspaper subscriptions. Give me a credit card." Right?
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I'm like, these people are crazy. I don't know why they're giving me their financial information. But back then I was just like, oh, this is awesome. I'm getting like $45-$50 for every sale that I get. This is great. I love it. But I think you're right on that front. But also the thing is when, I got to attribute a lot to that franchise that we did, because if we were just to do this window cleaning business from just boom, the get-go, let's just go figure this out, it'd probably be really discouraging. But because we had like 2-3 years of success with this franchise where they literally taught us everything that we knew. They took us out and they're like, this is how you do the sales, right? That was pretty valuable. So one thing that, if somebody's listening to this and let's say they're just stuck and, I don't know, I don't see a path, I don't see a way, do this. Just grab a notebook, grab a grab a pen, and just go knock on some doors and just try to sell some sort of service. So let's say window cleaning. Here, I'll give you 2-minute pitch for window cleaning, and actually do this. Like, go out there, do this, and afterwards, what you can do, you have these leads or you have these pre-bookings that you can go to a window cleaning company and say, "Hey, give me 50. Like, how much do you guys pay for leads? I got 5 leads. Give me $15 per lead. You can make $100." Not a lot of money, but it's the concept that counts. So go knock on the door. Here's my pitch. So they open the door. You say, "Hi, my name is Nick. This summer, I'm running my own window cleaning company. It's an environmentally friendly business where we only use environmentally friendly soaps to clean your windows. If we're cleaning a few of your neighbors' houses just down the street this summer, and if you are considering at all having your windows cleaned or maybe perhaps your eaves cleaned, I would love to give you a free estimate. It takes me 5 minutes just to walk around the house, and if you'd allow me to do that, I'd love to do that for you." So something along those lines. If a person says, "Yeah, maybe we like you." Don't get me wrong, you're going to hear a lot of those. Like, no, we weren't thinking about it. Thank you. But the main thing that I can say about that pitch is it's very passive. Don't try to be a sales guy. Just be laid back and like, "Hey, have you considered having your windows cleaned?" If they say, "Yeah, we have," sure, go ahead, give us an estimate. Walk around the house. Here's the thing. If it's a small 1 or 2-story house, go between $99 and like $119. If it's a bigger house, don't be afraid to say like $159 to $199 or $189. Those are like the prices. I don't think you'll be going to an area with a lot of mansions, because those people will most likely already have window cleaners on contract. So just look around the windows, count them up. If it's around 10 windows, 10 to 12 windows. If it's, don't worry about the size. That doesn't really matter, actually. If it's 1 to 2, if it's 1 story, just give them like a flat price of like $69 or $79. If it's 2 stories, 99 to 129, and then so on, right? Just pretend like you know what you're talking about. And then for eaves, average price is about $89. So if they're like, oh, to add on the eaves, it'll be 89. So then you knock on their door, they come out, you tell them, so to clean the outside of your windows, it'll be, let's say $99. To clean outside and inside, just multiply whatever the outside is by 1.75, which is basically add on 75% of it. So the the outside and the inside will be, let's say, $169, and the eaves will be 89. Sometimes you'll get yes, sometimes you'll get no. If you get a yeah, that sounds like a good price. If they're thinking, you can ask them, how does the price sound to you? Does the price sound okay? If it's a little too high, you can be like, okay, well, we are a new business and we would love to, any kind of business right now. So if we lower the price, let's say by 10%, would that be a little more within your budget? Kind of try to work with the customer. And then if they say, yeah, that works, you basically tentatively book them. So what you say is, so right now we are pre-booking a month or two, in advance. This is actually what the time when we're going to be in this area. And what we can do is we can set up a tentative appointment. So you have that, 2 to 3 hour window saved in our schedule. And what we usually do with all of our customers is we'll call you or email you, whichever one's better for you, a couple of days before, just to remind you that we have the tentative appointment booked. You can always move the appointment. You can always cancel it outright if you want to. This is totally up to you. This just kind of helps us gauge what kind of schedule we have, coming up. And we don't show up uninvited. So unless you confirm with us, we will not come and clean this. Does that sound okay with you? Almost all the time they'll say, wow, yeah, that's actually a pretty good system. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, put me down and give me a call or an email, a couple of days before. Take down their info, name, address, phone number, email. And the price that you tentatively put them for, you got your first sale. Congratulations.
Wow, you just shared your business system within 4 minutes, man.
Yes.
Even less than 4 minutes. And
that's the hard part. That's it. If that's the hard part, imagine the rest of it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, as you said, you worked in it for 2 or 3 years. You learned a lot about it, and now you can break it down into 4 minutes.
Right.
You know what? Everyone who is listening, I challenge them that most of them won't do it. They're afraid. Mm-hmm. They have fear. They have concerns about it. How can you help them get started? And I know it sounds unsexy to do a window cleaning business, but how can we convince them to get started if they are into entrepreneurship?
Right.
And if they don't act on this idea right now, and that's, I think Gary Vaynerchuk says this a lot, we are not willing to put in the work which is required to succeed. So if they don't start now, they will never really start. So how can you convince them, Nick?
So putting in the work is such an ambiguous term. And I remember hearing that a lot of times just throughout my 20s, just put in the work, and in your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm going to put in the work. And then what does putting in the work look like? So what I've just described to you, I definitely agree with you. I don't think a lot of people are going to do this, if any. I hope at least one person does and reaches out to you and says, man, Danny, I did it. And 10 houses later, I got like 1 sale. What do I do with the sale now? I have no idea. But here's the thing though, your brain, and this is something that I found out, and I could be full of shit here, but your brain, has its own, wiring, and consciously, this might not make sense, but subconsciously, there is always, wiring and rewiring that's going on that you're not aware of. So I'll give you a perfect example. The NoFap challenge. If you haven't heard it, Google it, but it's basically a challenge for men I haven't heard of one. Maybe there's one for women as well, which is like awesome. But it's for men, which is go without masturbation for X amount of days. So let's say NoFap for a month. So you go without masturbation for 30 days. And I actually suggested that to one of my friends. I'm like, hey man, let's do that to, let's not fap for a full month. And at first it sounded stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, that's ridiculous. But the thing is, after 2 to 3 weeks, first week is really hard, but after 2 to 3 weeks, you go without it, you notice more energy, more focus, more happiness, more concentration. Maybe you're connecting, things that are not really related, but it's in your mind, but who cares? Reality itself is subjective. So when you go and do, even with your neighbors, just go down your own street, you go and knock on doors and you speak the words that, I said here. and you try your best, just basically think of it this way. Just surrender to the process. It's not about you winning or losing. It's not even about you learning something. It's just physiologically putting yourself in that state where, you're just doing something outside of your comfort zone. And that itself is worth doing. And just surrender to the process. And remember, every door you hit, if you are in door-to-door sales, you know this already. Every door you hit is like a poker hand. You might win this one, you might lose it. No matter what happens, you get yelled at, it doesn't matter. I don't think I've ever had anybody yell at, and I've knocked on over 1,000 doors. Usually people just say no, thank you. Every rejection, every time you walk outside and you go to the next door, it's a new poker hand. So just treat it as that. Every single door is a new hand, and just go out like, screw it. Don't start a window cleaning business. Don't try to sell anything. Just go out for the sheer purpose of, man, I have faith that maybe this will do something different. Like if nothing around you changes, change what's around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just surrender to this. Like, you might be doubting what I'm saying. You might be doubting what Danny's saying. You might be doubting what, all the other podcasters that you listen to saying, but just take action on this small level. I promise you something will come of it. I don't know what will, but something.
I love it. It's all about action, right? And I have been in the books, bookworm for too long. I thought reading will prepare me, and to some extent it might have prepared me actually. And now, because that I'm looking into coaching, unconsciously I retrieve this kind of data that is stored in me, right? But it didn't help me to act in the first place. So I totally agree that acting, it's where experiences and leaving your comfort zone and getting those kind of experience comes from. And it's so crucial. And unless you want to stay an entrepreneur, you need to act in some extent, right? And maybe for you, it was door-to-door sales. Actually, I'm more external, I'm not how do you say? I'm not an introvert, so I'm an extrovert. So for me, sales works well as well. If someone is listening who's more introverted, get an app out there, build something, but get feedback, talk to your users, right? It's always about talking to people. Maybe not selling if you're an introvert, because this is really, really hard. Don't make it too hard on yourself. That would be my recommendation too. Like, find a domain that speaks to you. If it's coding, and then putting your app out there, and even if it's just 10 people, speak to them. How are they using your product? If you're an extrovert, like the two of us, go out there and sell. Understand human psychology, how you can reverse it. And I think one of the biggest lessons you just shared there is, like, you worked in this business for 2 or 3 years before you started the exact same business. You copied it. And I think that's what I got wrong for a long, long time. Finding systems, finding processes. I always thought, like, from an ego perspective, I will figure it out myself. I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. And I stopped, I self-sabotaged myself, right? By not looking for successful systems, by not looking for successful mentors who teach me and coach me their systems that I can execute on. And I think you did this really well, like, just unconsciously, like, hey, I don't want to figure this out by myself. I'm not damn stupid. I just find people who can teach me. I think this is the major lesson there as well. Find systems and processes that you can copy to do your first steps, because then your first steps are easier because you're taking steps that have been proven by Nick and others.
Exactly. And just one more thing to add on to that is really know yourself. I think that was, if nothing else gets taken away from this, I think what you said, just know your strengths, know who you are. And of course, there are tools, such as the ENTP test, Enneagram. You can read those and kind of try to gauge what kind of personality you are. But, know who you are and play to your strengths. For example, I tried learning coding before. Like, I spent maybe 2 years on and off learning HTML, CSS. And although I know some basics of it, that's just not me. I can't sit in front of a computer and just, get into these nitty gritty details. I'm a high level, like, kind of bird's eye view thinker, and I have 1,000 ideas per minute, and that's my strength. And that's what I implemented. And, Amazon was the perfect way to go for me because it's an automated system. Because if I, let's say, want to take a break for a week and just walk away from it, it's still working and making me money. It's a very systematized approach. And I've learned a lot from Amazon. Amazon's been great to me. And I've learned a lot. I've made money. I'm still making money. Like, I really like it. Now I want to replicate that system, but on my own terms, not to be dependent on Amazon. So absolutely find out what your strengths are, and then act on those strengths, whether it be, you want to be a coder, whether you want to do door-to-door sales, but just start learning. And if you're 30, 40, 50 listening to this, like, life's just starting. What are you talking about? I hear that a lot too. It's like, man, it's too late for me. I'm so old now. Like, I'm 55 years old and I have a family. So, like, life doesn't end. You just keep moving forward. It's just the next chapter in your life. Okay, well, I was this until this happened, and now I'm that.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about your FBA business. I love the lessons you shared there, and I think a lot of people appreciate the listeners.
Mhm.
How did you get into FBA? You said that you were traveling in Asia while running the other business. It was like kind of off season, so you could allow to travel. So then you met a few people in Chiang Mai, I guess. They were doing FBA. Do you have a few quick tips? So you share the business model around window cleaning. Can you share, and that's part of your YouTube channel as well, one of the most asked questions and how you regularly answer them? Is it too late to get into FBA? Are there still opportunities out there if you want to become an entrepreneur? What's your take on it?
So for FBA, I don't think it's too late, but I think the way that people have been approaching it has changed. So before it used to be the wild, wild west where you can just, the system before was just do some research, find a low review, high revenue products that you can improve. That's very big, by the way. That's key, to find one or two improvements on the product that you can make. And preferably those products that you're competing with, they have, bad listings that you can improve upon, better pictures, better titles, better keyword allocation. Then you go to Alibaba.com, you find a Chinese supplier to make those. You get some, you get 4 or 5 talking to you. You analyze them based on their response rate. How good is their English? You ask them for some samples of the exact product that you're trying to make. You get the samples, you analyze the samples. The best overall, samples, response rate, trustworthiness, price, quotes. The best one that you feel internally or from your analysis that you want to go with, you make a small order, somewhere between 100 to 300 units. You send that over to the Amazon warehouse by using a third-party freight forwarder. So I use Unitrans. There's also Shapiro Co. And there's a bunch of others. Just Google, freight forwarder. And then once it arrives in the Amazon warehouse, you should have your listing ready already. I describe all this in my YouTube channel. I have about 30 videos. So it's not like, paralysis by analysis. Like, I've described all these stages in their own videos. Yeah. And then once it arrives, you just turn on the pay-per-click. You get a couple of reviews going to kind of validate your product, and then you kind of let it run, and you do some small tweaks. Now, recently, a few things changed where you're not allowed to give away your product for reviews. I don't think that changes much, because I know plenty of people who started, they didn't even ask for reviews. They would just turn on pay-per-click right away, put the product in front of the customer's face. Eventually, they saw some sales going, and they set up automated emails using services like SalesBacker, or I forget what the other one is, but that's the one that I use. And basically what SalesBacker does is every time you get a purchase, somebody buys your product, they automatically trigger an email chain. So first email they'll send, say, thank you, your product's on the way. Second email, once the product arrives, second email will be sent out saying, hey, do you mind, sending us a seller feedback? How do we do as a seller? And then third email about a week after they've had the product, it's like, hey, you've had time to use it. Now, would you mind leaving us an honest review of the product? Like, that's completely allowed. That's completely okay, right? There is also, you can do build a Facebook fan page, and then ask your fans, like, hey guys, just if you've purchased this before, please leave us a review. So there is still many ways to get into it,
because the goal is to get at least 30 to 50 really good product reviews that you are listed high, right?
Funny enough, actually, there was an interview with a high-end VP from Amazon, and he said that from their studies, based on reviews, the magical number is actually 7. After 7 reviews, reviews actually no longer play a huge part in whether your sales increase or decrease.
Oh,
so 7 reviews is the magical number. That's what you want to get to.
And you said you learned all this based on which podcast?
The Amazing Seller by Scott Volker.
Amazing Seller. And then I'm going to link to your YouTube videos in the show notes as well. So if someone is interested to look into this, either try this podcast, or they should definitely look into your YouTube channel, because I like your energetic approach. I was listening to or was watching one or two of your videos, and I like your approach of how you teach, because it really comes from your heart and from experience. And a lot of people tend to teach from knowledge they gain from other podcasts or books, but you did it. You run through the process. The nitty-gritty stuff. Where you tweaked it, what you learned. So that's why I like your approach as well. And you put your face out there. You're an extrovert, which is okay. So you should be doing it. And I really love how you kind of love you put into your videos as well. So people should definitely check it out. Anything else you want to add to when it comes to FBI business, especially know yourself? What are a few gems you can share on what kind of person you think you must be in order to be successful with FBA businesses?
Right. So first of all, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And just if anybody ends up going to my YouTube channel, as of recently, I've been really overwhelmed with a bunch of comments and messages. So if you send me something and I don't reply right away or in a while, please don't take it personally. It's not because oh, screw that guy or screw that girl. No, it's not like that. It's just, it was a huge wave of just interest from people. So that's why, I kind of took a step back from it for a little bit. But as far as what kind of person does it take, I think anyone can do this. And there is not a type of person that cannot do this. Based on just characteristics alone, but I think the huge part is played by I would say your habits, the average of 5 people that you keep around yourself, your health, and your mindset. So let's go over those real quick. So if you're hanging out with overweight people, you will inevitably become overweight. If you hang out with guys and girls that just want to smoke weed and relax, you will want to smoke weed and relax. Even if you don't smoke weed, you will just want to chill. What you want to do is you want to try and either find friends or make friends with people that are hungry, that talk about ideas. They don't talk about people. They don't talk about events. They talk about higher end ideas. Seek out those people. And I guarantee you this will rub off on you. Second, take care of your health. Eating healthy is not that hard. Just have more veggies, cut out the junk food, cut out the sodas. You have no idea how much that matters. Your physiological state is what determines your emotional state, which in turn determines your energy and productivity. Hit the gym. Even if you hit the gym for 20 minutes, it doesn't take much. Just hit the gym for 20 minutes. The biggest thing that I've noticed in the past month that I started doing that made a lot of difference was visualization. Every morning, or just take some time from your day, just 3-4 minutes. That's all it really takes. Close your eyes and just imagine where you want to be. And I know it sounds silly. It's like you're in a cubicle or you're, a student. Maybe you're a student in a dorm room with 30 grand of debt with a bottle, and staring at your laptop. Just close your eyes and visualize where exactly you want to be. Make that clear and think about it every single day. Imagination determines a lot. I was foolish enough to think that it doesn't. It really does. And all I can tell you is just surrender to the process. Don't think about it too much. Don't think, man, will this work? Will this not work? Just fucking do it. Just
so
try.
What are you visualizing right now? Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? What are you doing?
Oh my God. I have such a hedonistic visualization. It's probably unhealthy, but my visualization is my perfect day, so to speak. My perfect day, the way that I see it, is basically what I want for my perfect day is I want to take 9 to 10 of my closest friends and I want to fly them all out, buy them all first class tickets, fly them all out to Vegas. We meet in Vegas, evening time. We stay, at Caesars or maybe Bellagio, one of those casinos. I put them all up. I pay for all the rooms. I give them each, let's say $5,000. We're like, boys, we're going out gambling. We gamble, we drink, we have fun. As the night progresses, in the morning time, we show up for a private jet, which flies us out to Miami. And from there, we have already a 130-foot yacht that I rented for us. We take it out for the weekend and we just drink champagne, reminisce, have fun, enjoy ourselves for the whole weekend. And then once we get back, I pay for everyone's tickets back home. And that is my, I guess, not a perfect day, but a perfect weekend. And I want to get to that. that's what I visualize.
Thanks for sharing this. I know you have been really driven by not just making money, but enriching the lives of your brothers, so to say, as you said before, right? They turned, like your best friends turned into family because of your history. I would like to circle back to, and we are closing the interview soon, but I want to circle back to your dad and the perception of your dad, and your perception, what his perception about you is. And you said at some point in your life, you felt like, oh, he might be thinking I'm a loser. I'm not getting anything done. I'm not accomplishing anything. But now that we heard your story, you sold a window cleaning business that allowed you to pay off your uni debt, which a lot of people still struggle with, right? But you made it happen with 25 already. Then you started a really successful FBA Facebook business, now making 10K profit, not turnover, not revenue. We're talking about profit. How does the perception of your debt versus you changed, and what do you think is his perception right now?
I think he's well. First of all, I felt like not a loser, which really helped. But on top of that, I when I speak to him now, it's I sense a lot more. Maybe it's also because he got a little bit older now, and he kind of sees me, leave the nest and do my own thing. But I don't feel like a loser, and I don't think he feels like I'm just wasting my life. I think all along he just wanted me to make some, like, to get some sort of security, get on my feet and do something. And I guess he just didn't see the vision of what I was trying to do, because maybe I just wasn't communicating what I'm doing. Like, hey, Dad, I'm trying to start this business, or I'm trying to learn this thing, or I'm trying to read this book. We never really talked throughout my childhood much. So now that I'm here, and he has access to all my bank accounts, so I'm sure he sees the kind of numbers that I'm pulling in now. He's become a lot more compassionate. Like, when we talk once a week on the phone, it's what a son-father relationship is supposed to be like. So if you're having father issues, best way to solve it is start a business and make a lot of money. And no, I'm just kidding. That's really not what it is at all. But I think it helped my self-esteem a lot, because I think one part that I quickly glanced over was, high school days, which is not something I like to talk about a lot. But, high school, I had this crippling low self-esteem anxiety, where I was, physically, I was pretty okay looking. Like, I was good looking, socially, I knew, people all around me. Like, there wasn't like, oh, he's a loser. Like, I wasn't that like goth, outsider. Like, I was okay with everybody. Like, I was part of the group. I was getting invited to parties, and I went there and I hung out, and I kind of, I guess, put on this mask. But inside my head, I'm constantly thinking, why do these people like me? Why do they invite me? It was so bad, like lowest self-esteem possible. And then, throughout university, I really worked on raising that, and believing in myself. And I think, if you, that's the point of visualizations, is that it kind of adds fuel to you believing in yourself. Because I promise you, like, anyone can do this. I did not do some miracle. All I did was just did some research, found a manufacturer to make the product, and put it up, and it just worked. It could have not worked. It could have really set me back, but it worked. So, I mean, some part was luck. And if you see the world extrinsically, as they call external locus of control, you will, like, I'm giving you now like a chance to say to yourself, oh, I don't want to do this because he got lucky, so I'm not lucky, but he's lucky. But if you have intrinsic, or internal locus of control, you will say, maybe he got a little bit lucky. But it sounds like he did a lot of work, quote unquote, like I'm doing quote, like work, where he sat down, he Googled some stuff, he read about it a bunch, he listened to the podcast, he started seeing how it works. Then I can kind of see the next progression would be, okay, he's found a viable product. He just contacted, all I really did was just type some stuff into Google search and send a couple of emails. Like, I mean, simplifying it a lot, but that's what I really did. Like, I just sat in front of my computer and typed some things, and now money's coming into my bank account. Like, anyone can do this. It's not that difficult.
And I think to start, you're right. It's not that difficult, but all the years you put in since you're 13 and doing the door-to-door sales, right? And writing this one email becomes easy for you, because it's required. You need to contact the supplier. You need to have the samples, and that's things you need to do, right? But for a lot of people, they might be scared in writing the email. Right. How do I put the words down? How do I convince them? And of course, you are now simplifying it. But I just want to be making you aware, and of course the listeners, it's never that simple. But as a first step, of course, just get your ass up and do something. And maybe it's the window cleaning first and then the FBA, whatever, or it's the other way around. But learning comes from acting. And it took me a long, long, long time to realize this. But ever since, my life got so much better. And I can't agree more with what you said about relationships, health, like physical, emotional, and mental health. It's so important to have these plays in order to enjoy the journey you're on.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been a blast, Nick. This is like really, I think I could continue talking to you for another hour.
This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
Wow. How many, I have a few quick ones to catch up, like on the FBA, just out of curiosity. How many hours do you spend on your FBA business right
now? Like the management of itself, I think I'm living the 4-hour work week. I think less than 4 hours a week. I don't really do, everything's automated. My time now, even though I do put in 5-6 hour days at co-working spaces, most of it goes towards, okay, what's the next step? So like setting up Shopify store, setting up Facebook ads, learning about those things, finding and hiring freelancers on Upwork. But the Amazon itself, I could literally just stop working and that's what's going to keep happening. Like it's all kind of been set and figured. It's very automated. It's a really good system.
And in terms of what you're trying with Spotify and what is the next steps? Is it the same product?
Yeah, same product. I just want to have my own Shopify store because Amazon doesn't really give you a lot of control. Like they don't give you the customer's emails or contact info. So I want to start building my own customer list. I want to start questioning my customers. What do you guys want to see us make? You like our product right now. What's the next thing you want us to make to expand the brand? I want to talk to my customers where Amazon doesn't really, they have really strict policies where they make that really difficult to do it on their platform.
And I see why you want to do it, because that's your strength. You have been always successful when you were talking to your customers, doing door-to-door sales, doing the pre-bookings. And I see why you want to build this email list now and be in control of your business. Right. You want to create a value, right? And a property, like a website with your name on it, or not your name on it, but with your company's name on it, and then to move this business forward. I like this. Concerning the business, what are you most afraid of right now?
I'm most afraid of getting an email from Amazon saying I violated some policy that I didn't know about and that I'm shut down, because that takes everything away from me, right? I'm 100% Amazon reliant. So I'm trying to really not fiddle with it right now. I'm just trying to figure out other sources or other sales channels. That's my biggest fear right now.
Do you think you're harming any of their rules and you're in a gray area?
Definitely not. If there's something questionable, like I'm like, this could possibly be against terms of service, I call Amazon reps and I ask them, hey, I'm about to do this, or I'm thinking of doing this. Is this against the thing? Can I not do this? So I'll always run it by they have an excellent seller support. That's another strength of Amazon, is their seller support is unmatched. It's amazing. So they always tell me, oh, I wouldn't do this because of this. It could be misinterpreted, or no, you're safe. You can do that. According to terms of service, you're okay. And they'll always follow up with an email of the summary of the phone call. So if anything to happen later on, you can always refer back to it saying, hey, look, this person said that it's okay to do. So it's not my fault. I learned my lesson. I won't do it again, but please, remove that block or whatever. And I had that happen before. I had that happen. That's what the fear is from right now.
Yeah, but it sounds like you have it under control, right? So you're not stupid or naive anymore. No. So you rather call them.
I hope not. I mean, I probably am. Like I'm not that smart, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to hang in there, on the ropes.
Yeah, as I said, Nick, I enjoyed this so much, and I would love for you to come back on the show, maybe in 6 months, 12 months, see where
that'll be an awesome
your
idea.
Business is in terms of building a property, being in control of your business. And I know that a lot of FBA business owners are concerned about this right now. Like, how can I transition into a more control state of my business? Mm-hmm. Closing the interview off, what are you most thankful for in life, and where can listeners find you?
I'm extremely thankful for the friends that I have. I think my friends made me, and I mean, I'm forever thankful to my parents because, I mean, it's such a cliche, but like my dad literally brought us out of the shittiest part of the world, other than North Korea, I suppose. Like he brought us out, and all the compassion, empathy, all the good things that I can find in myself, I got from my mom. So those are the two biggest things. But I guess another kind of selfish thing is that I always say that if I was an RPG character, luck would be my highest. Would be my highest ability.
What is this character?
So
Sorry, I
like
don't know
role
this.
playing games, when you like Fallout 3 or something, right?
Oh,
You're like
okay.
leveling up different aspects of a character, like strength, charisma, speed, whatever. Luck would be my highest one, but I say that with a grain of salt because I know, like, my luck came from just visualizing, seeing the opportunity, and then putting in work into it. But I always like to call it luck because it kind of it puts a lot of people at ease. Oh, he got lucky. Well, it's okay then. He got lucky. Like I can't get lucky, but he got lucky. So I give people the opportunity to discount me, and I give people the opportunity to take me for what I'm worth, kind of thing. Yeah,
That's a nice thing, and so far, like I got to know you and other entrepreneurs, and luck, of course, plays a role in their success. But if it comes down to what it really means for them to be successful, it's putting in the amount of time, and as we talked about it, putting in the work that is required. And it's so true. It shouldn't be dumb work, or like you shouldn't be working your ass off and sacrificing your health and not have friends or whatsoever. That's not what we mean, right? It's just finding systems, as we said, finding other successful role models, finding business models that work, and then put in the hours that into this proven success or proven path.
Right.
And you did it, and I admire you for it. And I learned so much just by talking to you. And I think, see, you are just 25. You have all your life, all your entrepreneurial life in front of you. And I'm excited to see how your life turns out, what kind of businesses you're going to be building, what kind of ambition and drive you're going to develop, and even building multi-million figure businesses further down the road.
You and I both. I can promise you, like, I will be a millionaire before I'm 30. I have my sights set on that. But the one thing that I would ask your listeners, and I think this would be really cool, I'd love to do this. If in the next couple of months, whoever, if you listen to this podcast in the next couple of months, like, do something different. Either go to some meetups of entrepreneurs, or come up with some sort of plan, or get a sales job. Like, get something new, like do something that makes you uncomfortable, and then send Danny an email or make some sort of a post saying like, hey, I did this thing, and then ask a question. Like if there's something that you're like, oh, I wish I could ask Nick or Danny this, but I could, but I can't, just do something cool. And then that's your kind of golden ticket to like ask us anything you want, or ask us to do something for you. Because if you're doing something for yourself, I would love to help you. If you're not taking anything out of this, you're not taking any action, and you just want to answers to your questions, I'm sorry, I don't want to help you.
I agree.
So I would love to have a couple of your listeners, or I mean, anyone really. This is an open invite, but do something that makes you uncomfortable. Do something that you think is a step in the right direction, and then send Danny an email. And then I'm sure we'll do this again before I leave, sometime around maybe February, March. I think a lot of things will change by then. And then hopefully that will have 5 to 10 really solid questions from your listeners. I would love to do that.
Yeah, me too. I love this idea so much that I might even put this into the podcast as an amplifier at the end. Like, show us what you learned from this interview, put it into action, and then tweet about it. Write us an email, whatever, and then we give you 1 hour of our time or half an hour of our time to sit down and go through what it takes to build an FBA, go through what it takes to build a blog, YouTube channel, whatsoever. We have a little bit of experience to share, and I love your approach. I will put it into the show notes, but just that we have it on audio as well. Where can listeners find you? And that's the very last question.
So you can find me on YouTube, Nick, Nick, Nirov, N as in Nancy, EROV. Also my Facebook page, Nick Nirov. You can ask some questions there. But like I said, I'm I just took a little hiatus from YouTube, and I'm just getting back into it. So please don't kill me, and don't say bad words on YouTube, because you do that. Don't do that. That's awful.
It's
yeah, check me out. Reach out. I will do my best to reply to everybody. But yeah, guys, just take action, and you'll be hearing soon from me. I promise.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Startup Geist podcast. Entrepreneurs are not born. We are self-made. Please leave an honest rating on iTunes or leave a comment on startupgeist.com/podcast. Thank you for listening.